Recorded, but this is going to be okay, like a board meeting. That's the difference.
Gotcha.
Yes, we did.
Everybody ready?
Yes.
I call this meeting of the Policy Committee meeting for July 1st, 2022 to order. Would you please call the roll, Mrs. Logan?
Yes. Mr. Adi,
Yes.
Mrs. Bodie here, Mrs. Casper here, Mrs. Schaefer
Here.
Mrs. O'Connor,
Here.
Mr. Miller,
Here.
Mr. Vogelman,
Here.
and myself here.
I'll take a motion to approve the minutes from the last policy meeting of March 11th, 2022.
So moved.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Mrs. Logan?
Mr. Adi,
Yes.
Mrs. Bodie,
Yes.
Mrs. Casper,
Yes.
Mrs. O'Connor,
Yes.
Mr. Vogelman,
Yes.
and myself, I vote yes. And I just want to explain, while they're joining us virtually, because that has expired for, you could actually vote during virtual meetings. They're in attendance, but they can't vote.
Right.
So
But they can participate in
they
discussion.
can participate. Yes,
They can or cannot.
they can participate.
Okay.
They just can't vote.
Okay.
So Mrs. Schaefer, Mr. Miller, thank you for being with us. Mr. Vogelman?
Sure. What I have before you has come my way as far as policy over the past month. Two areas of concern. I tried to attempt to find a location where to place these two policies. So I think it comes down to kind of two decisions today. Number one, do you want to accept the language that is draft? And then number two, if you do want to accept it, are these the right locations in which you would want them to be located? So I think it comes down to the discussion amongst the board of if you want to accept the language or modify it or not accept it. And then number two, where would be the correct holding place if you do accept it, modify it, wherever. So I attempted to put the first one in just what I thought, just kind of dealing with background checks of whether they go in the qualifications or the code of ethics or code of conduct as a first attempt. And then for the second one, dealing with athletics, I put it in the interscholastic athletics policy. So that was my first shot at it. Whether that's the right spot or not, I guess we'll figure out as we move along. But as I said, I think the first discussion is whether you want to accept the language as is. So we do have legal opinion on these two matters
Yeah,
that I
you
shared
think
with
you-
everybody. So
Yeah, can we talk about the legal opinions, Rob?
sure. The first one dealing with background checks. You cannot require that. It is not legal to ask board members to submit a background check because that is not public information that cannot be shared. That's private information. And so you can't require that. But then the follow-up question was, could you strongly recommend or strongly encourage? Yes, you could, but that's private information that can't be shared. And so if you would have that information, there's really nothing you can do with it even. And that person has already met the qualifications of being an elected official. So if you have that information and it shows some, let's say it would show something, there's nothing you can really do about it. And you can't share that information because that's not public information. That's not open to a public records request. So yes, you can change it to say strongly recommend or strongly encourage, but there's really nothing you could do with that information once you have it.
And the attorney also said that it's unconstitutional limitation of an individual's rights to political expression. And I would think that we would want to follow the Constitution.
Mr. Vogelman, did you have anything further?
No.
I missed that part. Sorry,
Did you have something? Mrs.
I did not. I just, no.
So I was the one who asked if we could change it to prior to taking office, the board strongly encourages that an elected candidate consider getting a background check, but it sounds as though that's not what our legal counsel is recommending.
And our Neola representative, the same thing.
Same thing.
Yeah, same kind of response of you can't really do anything with it.
I personally believe it's important, especially if we're going to be around students, but it sounds like it's an individual choice and not something that we can codify in policy.
Yeah, I agree that it's important, but yeah, we can't put it in policy.
Mr. D, anything?
No.
I also maybe recommend that it's good to make sure somebody is cleared, but probably that would have been done before election. So, but as long as I'm in the office every year, I'm going to clear to make sure that the community is confident in what I do, know that I have a good background.
Mrs. Schaefer, Mr. Miller, any comments?
I have a question, actually. Well, we can't require a background check for serving. It seems since we have background check requirements for volunteers, would it be appropriate that that board members follow those same background check requirements as our volunteers in order to be with children in a volunteer capacity, or just in a supervisory or present with the children?
I think that's a great question. Was that explored, Mr. Miller, Mr. Vogelman?
No,
I
we can go back and ask. Sorry, Rob.
No, that's fine.
And I didn't have that question ahead of time until we got this, so I apologize that I wasn't able to forward that to you sooner.
Mrs. Bodie, anything further?
Yeah, I understand where that's coming from, but I think as an elected official, because you're an elected official, you would fall underneath what they are saying, and that school boards may not impose such a requirement by policy. Just as someone who's reading this is, maybe if you were not an elected official, you would have to, but the way that this reads, because you are an elected official, again, school boards may not impose such a requirement by policy, but I understand where you're coming from with that.
Mhm.
I do.
Most elected officials, excuse me, I'm sorry, my allergies are a mess, don't have as much exposure to kids as we do. So I understand the part about the treating us
So
like a volunteer.
Let me ask a clarifying question of Mrs. Schaefer. Mrs. Schaefer, are you saying if a board member, in addition to their official duties, wishes to volunteer in a building, are they required to do it since we require that of other volunteers? Was that your question?
Yes.
Okay.
Can I ask a question? How often are you around the students unattended by no supervision where you could potentially harm them? That someone would need a background check. I mean, I would think that we're typically around the students in a public setting where there are other people around. So
I guess
I'm just kind of wondering how often are elected school board members in the presence of students
Yeah.
where something could possibly happen.
Can I say something?
So I don't want people to be fearful of something like that when typically we are around each other, around the students, around someone. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Yes.
Mr. Adu.
Okay, I think it makes sense what Ms. Bodie is saying. We don't have any interaction with the students. We don't have a direct interaction with the students. However, we have interaction with each other and administrators. So that makes sense where it is not necessary to have a background check because I have nothing to do with the students. I'm not going to go to the classes. I'm not going to go anywhere around the students. So why do I have a background check? It makes sense if you go by that. Okay. So, and it also explains why it is not required, but recommended. So it makes sense.
I also think there's a difference in exposure to students between board members and serving as a volunteer. Let's say, for instance, they're looking for help with the ID project, or they're looking for help with a field day or some other experience where you're directly interacting as a volunteer, which is certainly our option to do that.
Mhm.
You can head into the bathroom and there's a student. That's interaction with student with no supervision. I would say that there are many opportunities to interact with students where you're not necessarily supervised by somebody else. So I understand your point, but I do think those opportunities are there. It sounds to me like we'd like to have that further question addressed before we proceed any further on whether or not to turn this policy down.
Mhm.
Mr. Vogelman.
Yeah.
Mr. Miller, did you have anything?
No, I think we can, Rob and I can send an email back to legal with that specification that you outlined. Makes sense.
All right, so can we table that
Yeah.
officially until our next one?
Just as the FYI, I'm looking at policy 41-2009 dealing with volunteers. And there's language in here about criminal records check to be conducted if the volunteer is to be working with children in an unsupervised, and then it kind of lists what you look for. So I can say, can this apply? Would this apply to
Does it
board
apply
members
In a volunteer
in a
position,
volunteer
volunteer
capacity.
position, not in their role as
right?
board members? Or is that a marriage you can't separate?
And with
You can't
Lakota,
say, I'm not a board member right now, I'm a volunteer.
Well, that's,
It's-
can you take that
could
hat off?
be- I think that's the
I
second
think
layer you need to look
clarification
at.
makes sense.
and then would Lakota pay for the background check? If they require it, I would think that they would be responsible for the
Do
pay.
our volunteers pay for their?
Volunteers
background
pay
checks?
for it.
Volunteers pay
I,
for it
I
right
paid for
I paid
mine.
for mine. Like I had to have one, I'm tutoring on Wednesdays at Woodland now from 10 to 12 because they needed help. And they're like, well, you're going to have a background check.
Well, I just got mine
I'm like,
renewed
nope.
for,
I don't.
for,
Yeah.
serving at church and they
Yeah.
pay for it.
In fact, I am a prison minister. Every Sunday morning, I'm in prison, in mentoring prisoners. Every year, it has to be done.
But just the churches pay for
Yeah,
it
it
though.
does.
Church
It
didn't pay for
does.
mine though. I think it
It
depends.
goes-
on the
Let's
church.
let him finish, guys.
Oh, sorry.
You go through that check work because they want to make sure at every point in time you are interacting with inmates. You are who you say you are, and you don't have anything on your record. So it's not new to me. It's something I do almost every year.
I think it just depends.
So that might be another question to clarify in our processes, Mr. Vogelman. All right, anything further on that policy?
No. Excuse me.
It's on hold for further research then.
Thank you. Move on to policy 2431.
2431. Basically, it aligns with what's kind of out there, the Save Women's Sports Act, similar language. There's currently House Bill 151 has passed the House. And then the Senate has a similar bill with similar language, Senate Bill 132. That is to be discussed when they return in the fall. I also checked with OHSAA, with our own Scotty Wyckoff, who serves as president. Asked him, I said, are you guys planning on doing anything at this point? He says, we're not planning on doing anything until the Senate would vote. He said, if the Senate changes, then we'll align with whatever the Senate or House bill passed. We have no intention of going against whatever that says. So if it gets changed, then they'll align with whatever's changed with House Bill, Senate bill, and whatever comes out as ORC language from there, that they will align. So kind of with legal, kind of their thoughts are, let the Senate play out before you really start to put anything to policy at this point, because it may be a moot point. And then you may have to go back and change the language because you don't know what the language is going to be if they accept it. So that's kind of been the recommendation from legal. And I just thought interscholastic athletics, this deals with interscholastic athletics. That's why it's in policy 2431. So
Mr. Vogelman, do you know where that House bill and the Senate bill are in the process?
the House bill's passed.
Passed.
So the Senate bill is sitting on the floor to be discussed when they come back in September. Is similar language. So they think it will do the same thing. It should pass as well.
Okay,
So this seems premature to me for that reason.
Well, in the meantime, our women's sports, our children are not being protected in their women's sports. And 151 has been, I guess you would say in rotation, I'm sorry, in the process of being approved since February 23rd, 2021, and 132 since March 16th, 2021. So it's been over a year and it hasn't gone anywhere, or it hasn't been passed and written into legislation. So, and I think also if they do pass, the language that we have here would fall in line with those policies. And I do not see any conflict between the language that we have here currently and the language that is in those two bills. So if it passes or if it doesn't pass, we're still protecting our students as of the date that this policy gets put into action.
other thoughts?
I don't think it's necessary at this time. 151 has passed, correct, Rob?
The House.
151 has passed the House.
Just the House, but it hasn't passed by Senate and it's been
Right.
a while.
That's
since
what he
it's-
said. It's on the floor for the fall.
Yeah, and like Rob mentioned, there's a similar bill in the Senate. And so the House has passed their version, the Senate's going to talk about theirs. They're going to come together, but it looks like it's moving with the Senate. So I agree. I would expect to see something pass both houses and be forwarded to the governor I would say in the fall.
I also don't believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Rob, it's not a case of I could decide tomorrow that I want to play boys lacrosse and okay, I can. There's a very detailed process, correct?
Correct.
For
Yeah.
that to happen.
Yeah, females to play boy sports, there's pretty much no restriction.
Right.
But there are some guidelines. If male at birth wants to participate in female, I think OHSA has a 5-page document. One of the prescribed things is you have to have evidence of at least 1 year of hormonal therapies have to take place. And then second layer is they have to meet with the executive director of OHSA to prove that they don't have an unfair physical advantage. And once they do those two things, then they can participate. I think you're talking less than a handful of kids over the past 10 years.
Right.
So it's determined on a case by case basis.
Yes, unless it's females want to participate in male sports, they say,
That's fine.
go get them.
Okay.
Right.
And this has not happened at Lakota,
No.
correct?
But we've had some girls playing boy sports.
Right, but not
But
not
not in
trans playing.
No.
Okay.
transition.
Mr.
I have a question. Now, the bill that was passed in the House, can you give me a little brief on what it means?
I'd have to go back and look it up, but it's similar to the Save Women's Sports Act of just saying that born male at birth cannot participate in female sports, regardless of therapies,
Awesome.
doctor's notes,
Okay.
whatever, they just can't.
Okay. So now you are saying the same bill is in the Senate,
Similar.
similar to what was passed in the House.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, when you look at it, and even legal says they're similar bills, maybe some small language change, but basically there's a national movement of the Save Women's Sports Act. It's
Okay.
Ohio's version of that's playing out across the country and various other states.
Okay. With that assessment, this is what I am thinking. I know it's not an urgent matter and we don't have heavy participation right now. I would suggest that let's have all the bills passed so that we have one language that accommodate that aspect.
My question is, what if they do not pass this fall and then we're still allowing an opportunity for a male to compete with a girls' competitive sports? We're not protecting our girls' sports. And even if the OHSAA does have certain guidelines, as Mr. Vogelman said, that you have to be on puberty blockers for a year. It
Mhm.
doesn't matter. If you're born a male, you should not be able to compete with our girls in their competitive sports, no matter what. And I'm
Yeah,
totally against it.
I have a follow-up to that. Right now, how many cases do we have that is pending in that regard in our school district?
I don't know of any.
We don't have any.
So if it is not, Ms. Bodie, I agree with you. I'm 100% in line with that. But to me, right now, it's like double dipping. We're going to write a policy right now. In a few months, we'll go back again and rewrite the same policy. Meanwhile, there's no urgent need for it. There's not any spot right now that we have a pending issue that we have to conclude right now.
What I will do is I will follow up with our junior high and high school athletic
Let's wait.
directors.
We've not heard from
Okay.
Mrs. Schaefer and you haven't heard from me. So one moment. Mrs. Schaefer?
I also don't think that it's necessary to move forward with this policy.
Mr. Miller?
I would concur. I mean, that's what legal is telling us and Neola is that it's already passed the House. It's going to the Senate. The language is similar. We don't have anything coming up that would be impactful of our kids regarding this at this moment in time. Might as well just wait and let the legislation play it out.
I would think in answer to Mrs. Bodie's question, though, what if it doesn't pass in the House? If it doesn't pass in the House or the Senate in the fall, we still have the ability, still don't agree with it, but we have the ability to bring forth the policy again. It's not like it's dead.
Correct.
So I do feel a need to address this issue as well. However, I don't see the urgency to it, given that we don't have that going on right at this point in time in our district. I'd like to see what the legislation comes out as. I think we table it, get some feedback in the fall, and if we need to revisit based on what happens at the State House, we can do that. All in agreement with that?
I agree.
Isaac?
I agree.
Okay.
Yes.
Mr. Vogelman, what were you saying?
Mrs. Bodie does.
I can verify. I'll follow up with Scott Kaufman at West and Joe Myrie at East to see if they're aware, if we do have any cases. I don't believe we do, but I will make 100% sure just to verify.
If you'll get that back to the entire board, then we appreciate that. And then put it on a
I'll
future
wrap that
agenda.
into with the follow-up about the volunteer language as well.
Thank you. That'd be great.
And I also want to say that if you would adopt this language before a version from the state would come out, because what would happen is, let's say it passes the House, it passes, the Senate, the governor signs it. Neola is going to send us an updated policy
Correct.
with the language that's going to reference the new law. And so if you would adopt something prior to that, then you would probably be looking at revising it based on the new law and the legal terms. So just something else to consider.
Or it could be OHSAA would change their bylaws,
Mm.
which we adhere to now.
Right.
Then we would automatically adapt and adjust as well because we're OHSAA member.
All right, so we will table 2431 until the fall. Mr. Vogelman, policy consideration holds ongoing research.
Have nothing at this time. Pretty quiet right now.
When's
So
our next Neola update?
usually in the fall. So you could be looking September, October, depending on whenever they come out with an update, but usually 2 a year. One's a winter, one's a fall.
I'm sorry, which policy is that?
You want to explain policy Neola updates?
Every year, our policy provider, Neola, attempts to provide updates. Usually it's 2 times a year. That's to keep up with any legal changes that have happened, whether federal or state.
Mm.
And so they update their policies. And so they will actually come out and do a site visit with us to go over those updates, depending on what they are, and explain what they are, explain whether they are necessary to take because they're either new law or new revised code language, or it's optional language to consider. And they walk us through that, whether we want to accept those policies or just not take them, or whether we have to take them because it's new federal or state law. So it usually happens in the fall, January, and then in the fall, again, sometimes September, October-ish. If there's things going on. Ever since I've been doing it, we've had at least 2 a year. Sometimes you'll have an occasional summer one that'll come out, but we haven't had anything yet. And I haven't heard of anything coming out anytime soon before the fall.
So we'll need to schedule a longer session for that. in the
Yeah,
fall.
whenever Neola notifies us, that's when I always kind of work with our representative to say, hey, we typically look at the first Friday of every month. So if you just want to go ahead and schedule us, I try and get in soon. And as soon as I get the email from Neola, it says update available, which is always available on board docs for the board to take a look at in the draft form. So you can see what the topics are and what they're surrounding.
If you let us know for scheduling purposes, that'd be
Sure.
great. Thank you. And you've provided us with a list of board approvals since 2020.
Yep. That's always an ongoing list. So as we add things more, the things on the bottom start to disappear, but you just kind of see the time of policies. Sometimes there's gaps in time. Sometimes it's each month. It just depends on what's happening.
Any questions, board, on any of that?
Nope.
Nope. Mr.
No.
Lee? Mrs. Schaefer?
No.
Okay. Does that wrap us up, Mr. Vogelman?
I believe so. I don't have any more policies to update about unless there's any questions about any policies.
All right, thanks everybody for coming out today. We're going to adjourn. Mrs. Logan, Mr. Adi, Mr. Miller, we will call you in instead of Zooming if that's okay for agenda.
Thank you.
Okay, so we will be staying and the rest of you get to take the rest of your Friday off
Or go to work.
or go to work. Thanks, everyone.
Go to
Thank you
gym.
all for coming out.
Thank you.
Have a happy 4th of July all.
Thank you.
Started since there.